How can I help my teenage or young adult boy with anxiety? In this video, you'll hear from certified psychotherapist Marc Azoulay as he shares unique ways you can support a male-identifying young person with anxiety. Hey, it's Clint with Sandstone Care, where we help teens, young adults, and their families overcome challenges that come with substance use, addiction, and mental health conditions. All right, let's get right to it.
Yeah, so a lot of that I see in the younger, men that I work with is around, am I good enough? There's a lot of shame as far as, am I a man? Am I tough enough? Am I strong enough? Am I going to make, I think, at least again, these are stereotypes, but I think that they're true in a lot of cases. The male hierarchy seems to be very linear and very pecking order. Right? Like you look at a sports team, right? It's like, who's the fastest runner? Who's the least fastest runner? And most guys will be able to place themselves within that linear thing of I'm in the top fourth, right? Or I'm better than average, or I'm kind of in the bottom third. Whereas when I look at, female hierarchies, there tend to be concentric circles. So there's groups of women that have some place in the hierarchy, but it's not so linear. It's a little bit more networked. So for guys, they're always, especially young boys, I think men too, if we're being honest, assessing where they stand in the hierarchy, right? Am I high value or am I low value? And the boys that struggle with anxiety are going to be feeling more low value than anything else, right? Maybe they're not, as strong. Maybe they're not as good at sports. Maybe they don't feel as smart. Maybe they're not as good talking to girls, right? Maybe they have a hobby that people say they're a nerd, right? Something like that, right? They're kind of lower on that hierarchy. And I think the important thing for them, again, it's the same advice, but just listen to your kid. Listen to your kid, understand that. But I think with boys in general, try to move them towards connection with peers, because I don't think boys do that as naturally as girls seem to, right? I think kind of we were talking about before, men can isolate a lot easier than girls can, or they can fall into communities that don't really give them that emotional connection, whether that be an online gaming community, which is really popular right now, or becoming getting into Twitter, right, or getting into being a forum poster. All these Discord is a big one, or just a lot of one-way communication, but not really having deeper emotional connections with boys. The thing that I think is critical for boys in general is finding older men that can be mentors. I think and this is true, I think probably for both, but surrounding your child with as many healthy adults, and healthy is I can't underline that enough, right? You, as a parent, you have to screen and figure out who's healthy and who's not. That is part of your job as a parent, right? But surround them with as many healthy adults as possible, whether that be, coaches, tutors, mentors, people that they can do an internship with, camp counselors, whatever it is. So that they can start to learn from other people, and those other people can make up for flaws that we all have as human beings. And I think boys in general really respond to older males that are able to take them underneath their wing, teach them, a new skill, teach them a sport, teach them how to survive in the wilderness, teach them how to make something. I think that's kind of how we tend to bond, and we can start to feel a lot of value if we're getting the approval of an older man.
Yeah. When it comes to the archetypes or the figures that we see within the media, one of those archetypes is that strong, silent type, right? The action hero who doesn't want any help, right? The action hero who wants to go it alone, the lone wolf, right? And that can be a really damaging perspective to have when you're in formative years, because if you're having a problem, a tendency can be, I should be able to figure this out by myself. And then the next question is, if I can't figure this out by myself, what's wrong with me? I've talked to a lot of teens and young adults, and that was the thing that they kept coming in contact with when they're thinking about substance abuse, when they're thinking about mental health is, I should be able to figure out how to stop thinking this way, stop drinking, stop smoking, whatever it is, I should be able to figure it out. And if I can't figure it out, what's wrong with me? So I could totally see how that whole isolating premise can be something that permeates through everything.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And we talked a lot in this podcast about listening to your kid, but I think talking to your kid about yourself and about what your experience was like when you were their age and being vulnerable, right? Listening is probably number one. Number two, if a parent wants to help their child, it would be to do their own work. right? Getting in therapy themselves, joining supportive groups, getting around their own healthy adults, right? Like learning how to do introspection, doing journaling, whatever it is. Because if you can talk to your kid from a place of emotional stability about emotional things, and I'll say that in a different way, right? Sometimes parents share with their kids something that's emotional, but they are dysregulated, right? They're screaming, they're lecturing, they're moody, right? Because they're humans, that's fine. But the kid doesn't connect with you that way, right? They end up taking responsibility, or they want to fix it, or they get kind of shocked. So if you do your own therapeutic work, you can talk to your kid about emotional things while you're stable, so you can hold your kid. Hopefully that makes sense to your listeners out there.
That makes all the sense. And the thing that I think about from a male perspective or any parent perspective is, when I was your age, I did this, I did that. And that speaks to that exact fear and anxiety that we talked about, right? If you feel like your child should be in a place that they are not, and you use your own experience to be able to explain to your child that they are not as far along as they should be, you are triggering and creating an anxiety within them, right? Like that they're not good enough, that they don't measure up. Instead of, like you said, almost empathetically saying, hey, when I was your age, I also went through this. Like, this was so hard for me, or this was a big challenge for me. Suddenly, now you're more relatable. Now they don't feel so bad about themselves, right? Like they feel like they're not measuring up. And, you turned out okay. So if you turned out okay, maybe I can turn out okay too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, right? Sharing those moments of vulnerability with your kid of, yeah, I went through a bad breakup too. And like, here's what it was. And here's actually the details about it. Here's who this person was. Here's what they looked like. Here's a photo of us together. Here's how I felt. Here's a song I listened to that helped me get me through the breakup. Like really getting into that personal level and connecting with them on their level. Instead of talking from, on high, the idea is that you want to meet them where they're at is critical and can be such a healing moment for your teen going through something difficult, to feel like they're not alone. And just like you said, Clint, that if you got through it, they can get through it too.
If you want to learn more about treatment options for you, your teen, or young adult, then tell us about your situation on a confidential call using the number linked up in the description box below, or live chat with us at sandstonecare.com. We'll connect you with the treatment that you need, and if we're not the right fit, we'll get you where you need to go. Be well, and remember that change is possible.